How's everyone doing? My name is Daryl J. Bennett, CEO of the DSG Global Group. I am here with actually not just someone who's great at what he does, but a friend as well, John Diamond of the Kandid Group. We're going to have a great conversation today about grant writing strategies for MWBEs. Let me just say this, whether you're going to watch this, later on the replay or just hear it, or you've gotten our contact through someone, just to kind of let you know the intention for today. Our intention is really to help you to learn the proven tactics and best practices with both federal and philanthropic grants. As you know, we've done a number of different webinars already. We've talked about barriers to high ticket contracts. We've talked about how to become more discoverable. We've talked about things that you can do as a business to diversify your income and to get into the federal spaces. I do just want to show you this one more time. Everybody seems to love this, John. This is the I call it the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know if Pat Sajak has coined that term, but if he has, I'm just going to borrow it for now. And yeah, so this is really so people don't just think about one way to engage the government. Yeah, we've got government agencies at the top. When we talk about government agencies, we're talking state, we're talking local, we're talking federal, we're talking military. But beyond that, the way that we really provide value is by connecting folks with, suppliers and vendors, as both at the enterprise level as well as those that are more on the smaller side, with investors and small and medium-sized businesses, as well as MWBEs, to help people to get the services they need. Because there's a lot of folks, John, that are listening to these webinars and they have the desire to do more, but they don't necessarily have the capacity, or they don't have the relationship, or they don't have the systems, or they don't have, just the resources that they need in place to do a better job. So I appreciate you for being on this today. We're not focused on the investment side. We're not focusing on, diversifying the income. We're not even necessarily focusing on marketing and outreach strategies. For that, I would encourage people to look at the webinars before. I do want to put a plug. We're going to be doing an AI webinar in the next 2 weeks. A CEO of one of the top AI and cybersecurity firms in the country is going to be joining us to just talk about why AI is important in incorporating your business and your systems. So stay tuned for that. But let me introduce you, John, for those that need an introduction. And then I just want to get right into, you and what you do. And just, again, thank you for being here. So, John, I love your name, by the way, Diamond. And wait a minute, John. I never asked you. Oh, wait a minute. No, I was going to say, is there any relation with you and Jamie Dimon? But Diamond, he spells his name differently.
Yeah, it's Diamond, but it's like I hear that all the time. Everybody's like, your last name's great. Are you sure that's your real name? It's like, as far as I know from my whole life, yeah.
I got you. Yeah. So you have an extensive background in consulting, specifically around federal and philanthropic grant writing, contract management, data reporting, resulting in large-scale business transformation with exponential operating capacities. You have helped a number of different companies on the multi-million side, and some even on the multi-billion side, to write grants, to procure grants. I know you've worked in a number of different industries around that. So I first want to just give you the floor. I want you to talk to us about strategies, shortcuts, things people should know, and then I definitely have some questions that I want to ask you, John. So
definitely. Well, thanks, Daryl, again, for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. As you mentioned before, not only are we colleagues, but we've become good friends over the years. So yeah, no, it's great to be here. Great to have somewhat of informal conversation, more about the grant writing industry and kind of just what it is that I do, and how I can be of assistance to others. And I think that it's just best for me to just really just address what it is that I specifically do. So I've had Kandid Consulting, group has been my consulting company for just about 12 years now. I've mostly specialized in securing different grant opportunities, or securing the needs funding wise for organizations, as well as different business development strategies. This really goes from just actually finding the opportunities, or finding the funding opportunities, more specifically, and then writing the proposals, which is really I'm not going to say the most difficult part, but that's the main component, right? So in order to secure funding, you have to understand what it is, one, that the types of services that you're currently offering, and how they fall in line with the types of opportunities that you would, as an organization, qualify for. So this is through federal, local, government, for small, large companies, various industries, but I've mostly focused on or been in the healthcare industry. So that's healthcare systems, other nonprofits that are in the community health space. And I guess just really for my main focal points, about being persuasive and about the proposal writing. It's really about telling the right story to the right people. So it's not necessarily just saying, okay, well, we're going to answer these questions and we're going to provide information, but we're going to tell the story appropriately, that meets the audience, or the audience's eyes that are going to be reviewing these grants. So my connections are within the federal and state level, that I would work closely with the grant reviewers, as well as the contract managers for those grants. So that's also another big component, and really focusing on what the the details are, where it's not just necessarily answering the questions, but it's about the details of what it is that or fine tuning those details, that those reviewers are looking for. And then obviously, before you can do any of the proposal component, you're really trying to understand and unravel what it is that the funding opportunities are that align with your current growth plan, not necessarily what your growth is expected to be, or you expect it to be based on like any strategic plan, but really what your current growth plan is. Because the grant opportunities they can range anywhere between 1 year and 5 years. So really, if you have a growth plan that you're looking at targeting a 5-year growth plan, but the grant opportunity that you get you secure is only for 1 to 3 years, you're kind of outside of that growth plan. So you're really trying to align what it is that you are currently looking to grow. Meaning that if you were providing X service, and you, let's just say hypothetically, for making numbers easy, if you provide 100 of those services throughout the year, in order to secure the funding opportunity, you may be looking at, let's say, 150, whereas your growth plan can say, well, I want to do 250. It's the funding opportunity is kind of outside of that. So it's really just aligning what those funding opportunities look like with the current growth plan.
Yeah, so thank you for this, John. Let me just kind of jump in and ask a couple questions. So let's start at the bigger point of I think of the old one of my favorite movies, and the guy says, "This is a football." Let's say start with basics, right? Let's start with what a grant is. I mean, I know our audience knows, they've heard of grants. Sometimes people use it interchangeably with contracts, but certainly not. That's not it. I mean, I describe it as free money, but can you just kind of give us a sense when you're talking about grants, who's giving them out? When I say who's giving them out, who's the ones that are doing the funding, right? And what is a grant?
So a grant, I mean, in essence, the most basic way of looking at it. I mean, you're not wrong in the sense of saying it's free money. I mean, it's a gift. right? It's money, given to, an organization, by, from, like government, level, whether that's, state or federal, or, other institutions that could be, private institutions that have additional funding that they are, that they have set aside to be utilized for, various, projects, so to say, or various, missions. So like there are obviously certain organizations, or companies, I should say, that are in one industry, don't necessarily, give out grant opportunities for this, the same type of industry. They, have, whatever it is that their philanthropic, mission is, in order to give out X amount of funding. That could be, a few $1,000,000 a year. It could be, a few $100 million a year. It really just depends on the size of, what the organization, is. But specifically, or I should say more specifically, grants are, usually, that they're like it's incentive, or incentivized, performance, or, like to facilitate a goal, in the sense of, what I briefly alluded to before is, if you are providing X service, and I don't want to get, too granular in saying, like what the type of service is, but depending on the organization, you're providing X services. So that specific grant or those monies would be used, towards funding, building out a more robust program, in saying that, maybe you don't have staff, maybe you don't have, volunteers, where they would give you funding to hire staff. They would give you funding for, or stipends for, volunteers to help further that mission. And then the other component of it is, like there's obviously the application process that, you're applying for, where ahead of time, they may give you some additional assistance. There would be, maybe some trainings, involved, if you're not familiar with, what the grant opportunity is, or, kind of what the process looks like. And then once the grant is, like the funding period begins, there are obvious, like reporting measures that you are given a contract manager for that specific grant. And they work with you to help you, stay on track for what those, goals, or the mission is outlined within, that grant opportunity.
And this is a good time to talk a little bit about what the client journey looks like. And I just want to say this for everybody listening. If you're interested in, one, having someone that's going to identify funding opportunities for you, two, write those proposals for you, or three, just give some level of consulting on what you should be going after, how you should be going after it, what those proposals should look like, you definitely want to reach out to us, because what we're going to do is we're going to have a meeting to determine where you are. And then if it's a good fit, I would love to introduce you to John, because John does great work in this matter. Talk to us a little bit, John, about, for the client that does go as far as to say, you know what, we're ready to move forward. We want to hire you. We want to have you not just identify opportunities for us, but write those proposals. What do they need in hand on meeting one with you, so that way they can be, it can be most productive?
So, I mean, depending on the, the varying nature of, what the industry is, that the organization, is providing services in. I mean, if they have already, they have grants that they have already, or grant opportunities that they have already, said, hey, like, I think that this, would be good for us. That would, be number one. So I can see what it is that they're looking at, based on obviously the, amount of what the, they could be awarded, and, understanding a little bit more about what that specific grant is, so I can, dive in a little bit deeper. But then more specifically, what it would be, is really, just providing me, just a basic, overview of, what their, service model is, what their, current employee base looks like, or if there isn't one, kind of just what their, for lack of a better way of explaining it, what their organization lay of the land is, so I can understand, kind of who it is that, I may need to speak to along the lines of, the application process. That would be, number one. And then moving forward, it would really be me diving into the services that they're currently, offering. If they're not offering services, how they plan to, implement, the funding to provide those services. But if they are, currently providing those services, looking at it from, a data standpoint, how many, have they provided to how many, individuals, what does the demographic, information look like, so on and so forth. Where that, would probably be, depending on the size of the organization, who it is that, I would need to potentially speak with, would, probably be anywhere between, 1 to, 3 different, meetings, just to really gather the information and be able to, put together the answers, for each, application question in, a concise manner. And then, from there, application is reviewed, obviously by the executive director, whoever the, head of the organization is, along with, any other staff, financial staff that, would be involved, or board members that would be involved in, the application process. We submit, for the assessment, and then we, it's a waiting, period. It really just depends on how quickly, they're able to, review how many applicants, they have. And then once the grant is, you get the award letter, they give you the, the start date of, the funding period, along with, the other, reporting measures and, so on and so forth.
Couple questions here. First is, biggest mistake you see women and minority business owners make when they're going after these grants?
I think that they get too trigger happy, right? It's like, I think that people look at opportunities, and like you said before, where it's, quote unquote, like free money, where in essence, yes, you're not paying this money back. This isn't, like a loan that is, going to be forgiven in X amount of time if you provide, certain, or you like, qualify, guideline wise. It's not that. This is literally, funding that you are receiving to provide the services outlined in this, the specific, grant opportunity. So I think that individuals look at, or organizations look at certain opportunities, and they haven't written, or haven't had somebody, written, write for them a grant, or they're looking for funding for services that they either haven't provided yet, or haven't, provided enough of. And I think that it's really just understanding at the end of the day, like that's why, you have, on here, the biggest takeaways is, tell the right story to the right people, right? I mean, everything is storytelling. You can engage people by telling them, certain information or certain details that, jive with them. So I think that, it's taking a step back and, really looking at it and saying, okay, this is the type of funding that I need, or this is the amount of funding that I need to sustain this type of program or these types of services. But then getting, like not getting too trigger happy about the fact that, we need to maybe apply for several different opportunities, at once, in order to be able to sustain what our, like growth plan is.
And, how do you see, so let me ask it this way. When we talk about grants, I think a lot of people's mind goes to nonprofit.
Right.
Let's say you are for profit.
Right.
How does that work?
So the for-profit, I mean, grants are, I mean, it's more or less, the same. It's just, based on, like tax reporting. I mean, it's not necessarily, that different. It's more of just, like there's a lot of organizations that, do have revenue, but they're looking in order to, to build out a more robust program, that, their revenue is, potentially tied up in, whatever their current overhead is. In order for them to, expand, they kind of can't do that based on, what the revenue is. And it's like, they either have, the option of they can take out, business loans, depending on what their, assets are, if they need collateral, or they can, secure a grant opportunity that, furthers their mission. It furthers, I'm not going to say that it gives them, a different, like access point in the sense of, kind of where they stand. I mean, there's so many, for-profit organizations or companies that, apply for grant opportunities and secure them, because it allows them to further their services. These funders look at it and say, well, you're already doing great work in this field, so therefore, why wouldn't we provide you with funding to continue to do that? Because you're clearly reaching, a large enough audience. You're clearly doing, as I said, great work in this industry. So why wouldn't we fund, organizations or companies that are currently doing, these types, or providing these types of services, versus somebody that, may be able to utilize the funds. But I mean, really what it is that in anything, it's like, look, if you, you have I mean, just for lack of a better way of explaining it, it's like you have a, a silent partner, a silent investor, in a business, deal where one wants to fund something that is going to be successful. And if they're already showing, progress, or showing that they're able to, reach a large audience and, provide, these services, not necessarily just on a large scale, but on a, phenomenal scale, that, their metrics, look great. That's who you're going to fund. You're going to, fund individuals or, organizations that, can do the work.
What's one easy thing that people listening can do to make themselves more discoverable around these grant opportunities and be more competitive?
I think that, really what it boils down to, and I've spoken a lot about, providing the services, already. And I know that it almost sounds like an oxymoron, in the sense of you're going to apply for a grant, that will fund you to provide services, yet you already need to, show that you're providing services in order to qualify for the grant. It's more of, like I said before, it's like they, want to see that, there are organizations or companies that are, they have already started, right? It's not like they're, they are just starting today. They haven't done anything. They're trying to ramp up. There are grants, for that, right? Within, certain industries that, they will fund. But you still need, your ducks in a row of, how you go about that. But really, if you want to secure a certain, funding opportunity, it's best, honestly, to, do it, even if it's just from a volunteer base, where you get, friends or a few family members to, start, providing these services. And over, let's say, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe you've been doing it for 5 years, you haven't had any funding, there's no, revenue, per se, but you are passionate about the mission. You've incorporated already, you've gone about, or you've done what you need to do in order to be, legitimate, business, whether it's, 501(c)(3) or, any other business entity. And then at this point, you can show you have, the records of what it is that, the services that you've provided, to who, and so on and so forth. So you're able to, be more discoverable in the sense that, you have already provided the services. From a competitive standpoint, I think that's, kind of a tricky one, right? So some of the grant opportunities are, like demographic based. Some of them are, geographic based. It really just depends. Some, it really doesn't much matter. They're just funding a specific opportunity. But I mean, I have seen, many times where an organization is funded, for let's say 3 different, grant, grant periods, and that could be, 1 year, that could be up to 5 years, right? So, anywhere between 3 years and 15 years that, an organization has been funded. And then, after that term, either, they'll say that, you can only apply, twice. Sometimes they won't say anything, but then they'll slightly shift who it is that they're going to fund for varying reasons. So the competitive, or to, remain, kind of on top in that situation, is constantly looking, at other opportunities or funding opportunities specifically, that are out there, while you're in your grant. So, I would say once you're probably about, let's say anywhere between, 30 and 50%, through your funding, it's probably, a good time to start to explore different opportunities that, would be available to you in the event that, you no longer qualify for this, certain grant opportunity, or maybe it's no longer available. I think that, that's really, what, will keep the competitive advantage.
And for those, obviously, people that are listening, you're the man behind this. You're the one that obviously can help around identifying those funding opportunities, being strategic about what to go after. I know we didn't talk about this here, but you said to me on one call we were having that, if you go after things in the wrong order and you don't get it, it's a
Right.
possibility you could be barred forever from going forward. So that's why it's strategy behind it. It's not just, hey, we got an opportunity and you just run in and go after it. You're giving advisement as to, does this make sense? Is this smart? How likely are you to get it? Is this going to create repercussions on the back end? And then also, of course, you do the writing of the proposal, so you end to end. For those people that are not ready to invest yet, right? They're hearing, they're listening, and that's why we do these webinars, right? So they get some level of advisement. What would you say as a DIY, not DIE, DEI, right? Do it yourself. What are some of the things that people can do to like find some of these grants just on a very low level if, again, they're not ready to invest, but they in these type services, but they want to at least get the ball moving a little bit? What would you suggest, even if it's just one website that they should maybe
I mean,
bookmark?
there's so many. I mean, grants.gov, is probably, one of the, I'm not going to say the most known or, the most basic, but, I mean, it's, there's all the, opportunities on there. I mean, for, nonprofits, there's, GuideStar. And I mean, anybody can, go and look at, their state, site. So, whatever state they're in, and look at what the opportunities are from, a state level. Those are probably the most basic, or, the easiest, where you'll find like the most, opportunities. I think that, that's like a good place to start, just to kind of like see what it is that, is being provided within, either your state, or, just from, a federal level. I mean, there's Wings also, which is, pretty good. It's worldwide initiatives for, grant maker support. That's another great one. Trying to think what else there is. There's Grant Watch, except that like it's, it's a paid, it's kind of like a subscription, base where, you can plug in some information and they'll give you a little bit more. I mean, it's not the best, but, it's like some people think that, if you pay, a few bucks, you're going to get more. It doesn't always work that way, but it's, it's not a bad one. Trying to think what else. Those are, probably like the top ones that I would, recommend, for right now. Yeah, just to start. And I guess, really, to get, started in looking at, or start thinking about, okay, how do I want to fund this, right? Or how do I want this to look? Obviously the best way, in doing anything is really just, really being true to what it is that wants for your organization, or, like what your goals are, so that that, hey, a lot of the times, you start off and you have, a mission in mind, but you end up getting, grants that, or you secure, grants that don't necessarily fully align with that initial mission, but at the same time, hey, this is actually something that I'm also passionate about.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
and then I'm going to get funding for this. So, okay, like, so just really being true to yourself and like what the core goals are of the organization. Because I mean, I see it all the time, right? It's like an organization starts off providing, you start off, small, you're providing, whatever types of services, that you're providing in that specific, community based, or, industry. And then there's another opportunity, and then you build out another robust program that doesn't 100% align with the initial mission. So just making sure that, that mission, not that it's too broad or too vague, but, really making sure that, that type of that program, or that funding opportunity aligns with the arcing, like umbrella of what it is that, your organization does.
Well, look, John, I really appreciate your time. I think this is, a great point that just kind of to share to people, if you like what you've heard and you are serious about some level moving forward, right? I mean, we did this webinar, and I appreciate your time, John, at no cost for people that just want information. But this is what you do, and you're great at it. And so for those that are listening, and you say to yourself, look, we need help moving the needle. We either one need help around opportunities to find that's going to help us be more funded, keeping in mind that you don't have to be a not-for-profit. You've already dispelled that rumor. Any type of business is eligible. We're not just talking about grants that are coming from the government. At the state or federal level, we're talking about philanthropic grants. They come from foundations, they come from companies, they come from private hands. So if you say, look, we need help with some system that's going to help us to know what's out there. Two, we need help with actually writing the proposals, going after them, and the strategy behind that. Or three, you just say, look, I think we've got the internal resources to do it, but we need some coaching, we need some consulting, we need a second level of eyes to look over what we've put together. Then what I would encourage you to do is go to this QR code, or you can call the number, or go to services@bsgglobal.com, or Daryl@bsgglobal.com, and someone on my team will meet with you, qualify, see where you are, and if it makes sense, and it looks like you're really at those steps to move forward, then we'd love to connect you with John, because look, our goal is ultimately, what we get out of it is we want to see more people be successful in what they're doing. I think I shared with you, John, that one of my like kind of gripes here, not to go on a whole nother thing, a rabbit trail, but one of my gripes is how much monies are supposedly allotted for Black-owned businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, but they don't necessarily get there.
Right.
So this is a workaround for people that are listening, and maybe you say, I'm not getting the government contracts that I want. Well, money's still green that's coming from the government as far as grants or
Right.
foundations that's coming, with awarding opportunities. Don't be so myopic, and maybe this is where I should end it, to just look at one avenue.
Right.
There's so many different ways that you should be connected or plugged in, so you can get the money. You like that, John? If the money's still green?
It is. Last time I checked.
Yes, yes, indeed. Anything you want to say as we close out, John? And again, thank you. I really appreciate you
No, no, I just,
doing
I
this with us.
appreciate, being able to, be on this webinar with you, and, yeah, just, chatting, and, letting, others know what it is that I do, and, providing, a mutually beneficial, service, right? It's like, that's kind of just how I look at everything is, things have to be mutually beneficial. If they're not, there's really, there's no sustainability there. And I enjoy for things to be mutually beneficial. I enjoy helping others, be successful. As you said before, I mean, it's like there's enough money to go around, for all of us that, doesn't just have to be, one person or in one thing. There's there's a plethora of funds out there that, I want others to be successful and be able to, open up, or have their doors be opened up, to those opportunities.
Yeah. Doors open and minds open. Last 60 seconds here for anybody listening. I just want to encourage you. Sometimes I know people are listening to this information, John. It's not even that they're coming to get educated, although that's a part of it. But some people they're looking for inspiration. I know that we are living in interesting times. You've got people questioning, why am I in business for myself? Why did I do this? Is it too late to turn back? But somebody listening, I just think you need to hear this. You come too far to give up now. If you were going to give up, you should have given up 5 years ago. You should have given up $250,000 ago that you put into the business. You should have given up 10 sleepless nights ago. So there's people like John that are out here that want to help you level up. So many people, John, as MWBEs, I almost think that, and SMBs, because a lot of this is also going to go to the small and medium businesses that we work with. And people have this mindset that they think, if I can't do it, it can't be done. And we're trying to get people out of that mindset. Leverage your relationships, leverage your contacts. There's people that can help you move the needle. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part, and always good talking to you, John.
You too, Daryl. Take care.